Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I love to have you. So today you can tell I am freezing. Freezing, hypo, struggling a bit tonight. But we're doing this. We're going in. As Evanescence says, we're going under. I've been listening to that song a lot. That's how I feel this time of the year. But I'm here armed with my denim. The denim is not necessarily symbolic of anything other than I'm cold. And I haven't worn it in a minute. So, yeah, and it's really oversized. So it would really upset Samira that I'm wearing it. She'd be very triggered that I'm wearing an oversized look. But I did today. And I will say I got some stares in public today. But I might wear it again tomorrow. So, Derry, Alabama is just going to have to deal with it. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, I'm being extra. I'm trying to get in the mood to go. I'm tired. So, let's go ahead and do this. We're back for another one. I think they're going to talk about Oprah. So, let's see what they got to say about Oprah.
We've arrived in the outline. We've arrived at Oprah. Goodbye, Kelly Osbourne, and hello, Oprah. Is this torture?
No!
Am I torturing you with like the greatest hits of cultural figures and weight loss?
No, listen, Oprah. I grew up on Oprah. I've got 4 decades worth of Oprah to talk about here. I'm ready to go.
Your loins are girded.
Yeah, that's right.
I would like to
Oh my gosh, hold it. 1 second. Okay.
Oprah.
Mm-hmm.
So, for decades, Oprah has, as everyone knows, Oprah's been a fixture in the national conversation about weight loss. Oprah has been very publicly a victim of the same diet culture and weight loss culture that she has contributed to. She's also profited heavily from it as the spokesperson for and longtime board member of Weight Watchers. In 2015, she acquired a 10% stake in Weight Watchers. So she was like on a personal and professional level has like long, and a public level, long been like embedded in this conversation, in this industry. I know that you have extensive thoughts and feelings about Oprah and her place in all of this, which has become even more complicated over the last few months. But before we even get to the Ozempic stuff, like what are your high level feelings about Oprah leading up to the year 2024?
I would say
I'm going to just say I'm interested to see what she says here. I'm not particularly concerned about Oprah at all. I know a lot of you guys, some of you guys who have been watching this, you've been like, I'm not concerned about celebrities at all. I get it. I'm concerned about certain celebrities, but not Oprah. So I'm interested to see what she says. I feel like Oprah is a little bit, she's probably more before my time, in my opinion. So let's see what Aubrey says.
top lines about Oprah. One, and a really important place to start, is there is no part of me that envies the position that she has been put in culturally. Her body has been the subject of headlines, talk shows, all manner of things. I think anybody with a body feels like that body is being scrutinized at one point or another. But like, even as a public figure, like if I'm honest with myself, if any of us are honest with ourselves, we have not faced what Oprah has faced, right? We have not faced the full court press of people being like magazine covers saying that her partner is going to leave her because she's so fat and so on and so forth, right? Like it's a real meat grinder that she has been put through around her size, and it's garbage. And I think there are a couple of things that happen when people experience that sort of.
So I will say that's fair enough, what she said so far. Aubrey tends to start with like a kernel of truth. She tends to try to get you hooked in, and then she does a bunch of BS. So let's see if the BS is coming.
Level and kind of abuse in public. One is that, of course, it creates like a profound wound, a great deal of trauma to deal with, all of that sort of stuff. And the other thing that happens is that you get really good at doing it to other people. And both of those things, right? Inside you, there are two wolves, right? These are the two wolves that all of us have. If you have experienced weight stigma, you have both learned the lesson of how much that's terrible, how much it hurts, and how many harms it can cause. And you have also picked up some pointers along the way. And I think Oprah is a real interesting distilled case study of both of those things, you know, that she not only sort of made it her mission to become thin, she also sort of made it her mission and one of her profit centers to tell other people how to also become thin. It felt like a real, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is...
Okay, so what I will say to that is I don't really... Okay. Now, we've talked about celebrity a lot in terms of this podcast, obviously, this episode. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, like I know Chappell Roan, she's been kind of going on about like how there's certain aspects of celebrity she doesn't like, for example. But that is still a reality of celebrity. It's something that's probably going to happen. I don't know if it will always happen. I don't know if we'll always view celebrities the way that we have. You know, I think things might shift. I personally think things might shift in the future because of the internet and stuff. I think there just might be, you know, as we've seen like social media people and things like that, there's more people. It's like the more people that are prominent, it kind of takes pressure off these like really high level ones. So there might, you know, I think over time that kind of distills a bit, especially since I haven't seen as many like Gen Z idols or whatever. It's not similar to prior generations. And I think it has to do with the internet and the decentralization of the internet. So I don't even know how relevant this will be forever because of the changing landscape of media and the changing landscape of celebrity itself. But I will say that tabloids and all these different things, they are awful, but it's something that a lot of people, especially at the time, understood was part of the gig, so to speak. So I don't know how much Oprah really was traumatized by it. I think I feel like Aubrey's reading a bit too much into it. I don't think so. I think that Aubrey is saying that because Oprah has pressured people to lose weight or has tried to work with helping people lose weight or has tried to make money off of people losing weight, that it's because she's traumatized. So I don't agree with that necessarily. I think that that's too much. It's not genuine. Like, it's not a real connection. I'm not saying Oprah can't have trauma. I'm not saying that she might not have some kind of connection between trauma and her weight. But I just think that her encouraging others to lose weight, I don't think it has a connection with trauma at all. So that's what I'm saying.
I've waited my whole life to say, circling back to Khloe Kardashian. But Khloe Kardashian I feel similarly about.
Yeah.
It's one of these many such cases, right? Where, I mean, it does feel like there's a kind of class of celebrity who...
I think that it's also Aubrey and Matt, they're kind of pointing their nose up at these women because they feel like they're better than them, because they feel like, well, maybe I had some kind of body stuff, but I never turned that way, so I'm better. And I do think that there is a looking down on these celebrities from these two, which I think is important to look at or to see, that they're being very, they're being moralizing. They're viewing themselves as above Khloe Kardashian or Oprah. So I've never told you guys on this channel that I think all moralizing is wrong or all this or all that. I don't believe that. I think that people are going to always moralize, and it's just a part of the human experience, and it's just a thing. I just always try to point out that they do it too, because they always lie and they always say that they don't moralize, but they are. They're judging. This is judgment. You're judging Oprah. You're judging Chloe. You're saying you had the hate, you had the body stuff, but you couldn't take it and you turned bad because of it. That's what you're saying. But I didn't. But we didn't. We're the enlightened ones. We're the ones that we didn't change our mind. Even though, again, I will point out it's easy for Matt to say, what stake does he have in it? Aubrey, she's on her own highway to hell. I'll put it to you that way. I know that's a bit harsh, but I'm just going to be real. At the very least, she's about it. You know, she'll dive off that cliff as she tries to pull you down with her. But there is something also very sinister about this that I always point out, and I try to point out that there are a lot of thin people in fat acceptance, and it's completely not okay either. So let's continue.
Experiences body shaming and body scrutiny that I wouldn't dream of or wish upon my worst enemy. And then they, jump to the other side of the equation.
There is sort of this well-known and well-discussed trope in fat spaces, and I think it comes from very real experience from folks, that weight loss is only part of how you sort of attain the privilege of being a thin person. The other way that you do that is by socially distancing yourself as much as possible from fat people. And you do that by outwardly judging fat people, right? Making public comments.
Socially distancing. What if you have fat family members that you still spend time with? That means that you're not thin anymore because you've lost weight. That doesn't make any sense. I think if I had to piece together some type of, to try to salvage something from what she just said, I would say maybe it has to do with not identifying with fatness anymore, which if that's what it is, if I'm like trying to throw her a bone and trying to steel man her argument, I would agree with that. I do think that you need to distance yourself from the identity of fatness. It's not a real identity. It doesn't have anything to do with you. There's no real, genuine, long-term historical significance of fatness. There's no real common experience of fatness. That's part of what makes this topic so difficult, is that everybody has different experiences with it. So it's very difficult to talk about weight in an activistic way, because I've talked about this. I've struggled a lot with it, with looking at the individual things, but also the general trends. There are trends, but it's not on the same level as being closeted as a gay person. Not every single person that is gay has been in the closet or has struggled with that, but it's common enough that there can be a cultural thing within being gay that has to do with being closeted, because enough people are. There aren't many common experiences within fatness. I think that there's more common experiences within E followed by the letter D, which again is what I think this movement is actually about. But in terms of just being fat, which is an extremely subjective word, and it can mean anything from being 5 pounds overweight to 200 or 300 pounds overweight, it doesn't really say much. There isn't any common experience. Somebody 10 pounds overweight or that has a pooch has almost nothing in common with somebody who's been 300 pounds overweight before. I've been 200 pounds overweight before. Basically 200 pounds overweight. I was 383. At 6'1", I should weigh probably around 190 or 180, somewhere in that range. if I had muscle, which I do. So I would say that that's pretty much where I should be. That's about 200 pounds. People, even my best friend Eric, I talk about his experience a lot. He was 240 at 6 feet tall. And he lost weight. He's going to kill me if I get it wrong. I think he's 190. So that's 50 pounds. There are common experiences that we have within fatness, but there's a lot more that we don't. So I think the identity of fatness is completely fake. And it has to do with a toxic, ritualistic mindset. It has to do with E followed by the letter D. It has to do with B followed by the letter E followed by the letter D. If we want to get very technical, identifying within your fatness, that is a disordered mindset. So, because it isn't based on anything real. And remember that in a disorder, it doesn't have to be real. It's mental. It's a mental illness. So it doesn't need to be rooted in reality, and it isn't. And I'll tell you that here and now, it isn't. So she's saying you have to bash fat people, or you have to do this or do that to no longer be fat. I think that there might be some kind of aspect to that, but I also think that I think that it's not as real. Okay, I can kind of see what she's saying, but let's say you're editing a photo and you put something over to overlay the filter or something. Let's say you put one image over the other. Her image is completely opaque, but in reality it's probably at 10 or 20% transparency. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's just how my mind's working right now. But it's just not that deep, or it's not that intense. She's making it out to be too intense. It can be very, very light. It's like somebody making a big backed meme. And she would consider that as this deep betrayal, or you're really throwing fat people under the bus, but it isn't that deep. There are some people who lose weight within toxic ritualistic behaviors and mindsets, and they may have a genuine fear of regaining to a pathological level that can be bad, because they've probably lost touch with caloric realism. They start having magical beliefs about weight gain, magical beliefs about appetite, about all these different things. I've seen it. I have a lot to say, probably in the new year, about certain weight loss channel tropes that I've seen. I've been observing things. And I do want to talk about it in the future. Not right now, though. But I'm looking towards my next phase, as Obracity is going to end at some point, isn't it? But anyways, I'm just saying that I see these types of things. I see the interaction with social media, and I see that there are a lot of people that do lose weight within those toxic mindsets still, and they linger. And I would say, don't have those mindsets. Work on them while you're fat, because you want to enjoy it when it's done. I can assure you, I still have problems. I even have physical issues. I've told you guys, my hypothyroidism, it's really, really in the trenches at this time. And it makes sense. It's the time of the year. And I may feel depressed sometimes, but it has nothing to do with my weight, how I look, my diet even. I don't get depressed about my diet. I don't think about it that much. So you're still going to have feelings and emotions, but you've got to get it off of that. I don't think about food like that either. I'm not depressed about food. you have to just live your life, and there's going to be hard times, but you just kind of think about other stuff, and that's more normal. Then you just become a normal person. And I guess she would consider that distancing yourself from fat people. But it's like, no, it's just you're becoming a whole person again. You're becoming somebody that has a whole ass life. I have some really cool plans for next year that I do have to work for and save money and stuff, but I have a couple trips planned towards the spring, and I'm really excited about them. And I have hope, I have a lot of hope these days, but towards the future, and I have more hope in a romantic sense as well. Like, I think there will be a day when I'm not single anymore. Like, I can kind of look towards that. And so I think it's really important to try to take things as they come and just be a normal human being again. When you get out of this, it's a part of recovery, is that you get out of it completely. And you don't have to have all the weight loss to get out of that mindset. Because I'm not in it anymore at all. I have legacies of it. I still have some issues, but the longer I'm out of it and the more I do the mental work to kind of get out of it completely, or, like, to shed those ways of thinking, or to shed those mindsets even further, or like that kind of hardware. I told you guys, I took the anxiety I had towards my body and I put it onto my car. That was an early coping mechanism for my toxic ritualistic behaviors. So when I got in a car accident in 2023, it was extremely traumatic because I had taken all of that anxiety from my body and put it onto my car. So I had externalized it onto the car because it wasn't dangerous if it was on the car. It wasn't going to affect my behavior. But the anxiety was still there. And I had to work through issues with my car. And I'm getting to a point now where I don't think about my car like that anymore. I don't have anything that I'm ritualistically obsessed with and anxious about. I don't have that anymore. I don't need that anymore. But I think sometimes we do have to take steps, especially in my case, it was so severe. I wasn't going to be able to go from being so anxious about this to not anxious at all. There was going to have to be a step. And my car was that tool for me. And it's ending. That's all over. That ended like in October, at the end of October. So it's totally, I'm reaching total recovery. I'm recovering more than I thought I could, honestly. And that's beautiful, but it's like she's sitting here and like demonizing that, I guess. Aubrey, like, are you really demonizing that in me? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to listen to Aubrey, but I just worry about people who will. Okay.
Saying that you would never do what they're doing, talk about the mistakes that they're making in their workout form, or talk about the mistakes that they're making in what they're eating, or all of that sort of stuff. And I think, again, Oprah has really, really learned that lesson, that like the size of your body is only part of it. The other part is you align yourself real hard with thin people and you distance yourself real.
So apparently she believes there's like a thin culture as well. I mean, she's really, you guys, she's really in that mindset. That's all I can say. I'm just going to say it. And I feel for her in that sense. Like, again, I really don't like her as a person, but when it comes to this issue, and when it comes especially to this E followed by the letter D and all the mindsets behind it, even if I hate you, I do not want you to have that at all. Like, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, truly. And so when I really see how deep she is in it, where she's really seeing like thin is this and fat is this, and she's really thinking there's like this different culture of it, and it's like, no, Aubrey, it's not real. What it is there's people that have toxic ritualistic behaviors and people who don't. That's what it is. I think you'd find a lot in common with people on the not eating enough side of things if you really talked about it. Because there are a lot of you guys on my channel that a lot of the things that I say about the side where you eat too much, you still relate. And I do have a friend who has struggled with, I'll just say, ANA. And there's a lot of overlap there, for sure. So I think it's just, we can understand the culture that we have is rooted around trauma. And we've all been traumatized by different things on a pretty deep level. It doesn't just happen. I told you guys, this doesn't just happen. And that kind of trauma, it can shape you a bit if you don't deal with it. So that's where that culture is coming from, and what she views as a thin culture is really just a culture of people who haven't been traumatized in that way, who don't have those behaviors, or who never have. Even as I've left it, there's probably always going to be things that I will always understand because I was in it so deep. So deep. Deathly deep, So, for a very long time, like I would say probably at least 15 years, at least. But severely so until 2020. Yeah, 2009 to 11 years, severe. I think 2009 to 2020, I was very severe. And I stopped in 2021, and it was like I had to really white knuckle it. And when I think back, I see how I wasn't doing the behaviors anymore, and I began to become anxious about my car. So my brain started to find the other thing to be upset about. Which, when I think about it, I use my car a lot to work, and it can be kind of like an extension of your body. It's weird how that happened. And I didn't realize that until this year. It's weird. So I don't know. But that's me. Like, I was very, very severe, and that was kind of my path. I don't know what your path will look like, because I think our traumas are all different, and I think there are different ways to recover. But the biggest thing is to stop the behavior. That's the most important thing. So if you stop, then you're in remission. You do have to stop it completely, though. So there are mental aspects to it, like, obsessing about the mirror. You have to stop that too. For me, it was also, I couldn't keep starting a new diet every few months. Like, I couldn't do that anymore. And that was hard for me. It's like, you can't do that either. You have to stabilize. And if you don't do those three things, then you're out of it. And then you recover, and then you're in remission. Because you see, how you get to remission is you see that it wasn't real. It's not real. It's not actually a thing. You won't die if you don't do it. You won't have bad luck for 7 years if you don't do it. You won't lose whatever it is you think you're going to lose if you don't do it. You're going to be okay. And then you have to start looking at your life, and you have to start looking at real issues because you no longer have that distraction. And that was tough in 2021 when it was like, I'm not doing this anymore, and my life is just not at all what I wanted it to be. And it was very tearful. And I kind of, I put on weight and stuff. It was hard. It was very hard, but you have to just sit with that, and it will pass. And I hope I can be a testament to that passing, because I do feel like I'm getting a handle on my life now. So it's beyond just the mental recovery. Like this year, a lot of how I felt this year was about trying to live life again, from becoming healthier, from being out of super morbid obesity, and trying to find myself in older familiar situations, but without this coping mechanism, because it was completely gone. And in my darkest times, I even missed it. That's how I knew it was gone, because I missed it. You can't miss something that's gone, or, that isn't gone, basically. So it's like I had to create a lot of new mental connections in my brain. And that was very, very, very mentally exhausting. And I feel like I'm reaching a point where I've done it. And then I've also worked a lot on the practical concerns. And I feel like it's starting to turn around, things like finances and things like that. And I think I'm going to sign up for certain stuff, and I'm just looking at more things towards the future and making plans, as this is probably one of the lowest points, It's not even that low. I'm still even performing, oh my gosh. Performing as far as YouTube. Yeah, like I'm putting the content out, but also my other job. And I'm still posting, is what I meant to say. Like a year ago, I was barely posting. Around this time, like it gets really hard. So I don't know. It's wild. Recovery is wild. It is, but I do feel like I'm getting to the good part. I do. I really, really do.
Hard from fat people. And it should be noted, this feels like another moment of like, aha, we figured out how to blame fat people for anti-fatness. And I just want to be super real. That pressure does not originate with fat people, right? That pressure originates with a culture and a media that thinks that people's bodies are up for sort of public discussion. That pressure originates from, I would argue, predominantly thin people who do not know what it actually takes to lose a large amount of weight, and assume that their own quote unquote normal and therefore invisible to themselves decisions are the quote unquote right decisions to make in order to be a thin person, rather than recognize.
I can agree with her there. I always talk a lot about how different supermorbid obesity is from the typical fat narratives. I think being obese now, I see how true a lot of the typical fat narratives are for this category. This is a time of my journey where I really can't have excuses, where I am prone to being more lazy, and I have to kind of kick myself in the ass or put on like this crazy playlist I've been working on where I have like all these really intense, like, I guess it's called post grunge, like Evanescence, Linkin Park, things like that I used to listen to when I was younger, to try to like get some energy in there. I'm listening to Linkin Park, I'm listening to Chester like screaming in my ears like as I'm working, and it's like, it's like easy listening because I'm kind of low dopamine. It's like I'm low motivation. I think in obesity, the hardest part is motivation because you're not, when I was super morbidly obese or even morbidly obese, I was so ill that you always knew you had to go. You had to keep going, especially super morbidly obese. It was so horrible. Truly. On a health level, it was so hard. It's so hard to lose as a super morbidly obese person. So now it's not really like that. There's no like fear. So you have to find other ways to kind of amp yourself up to do it. And a lot of people, they get harsh with themselves in a more playful way. And they say like, oh, I'm a fat ass and I got to go to the gym now. And they say things like that. And so it's like, you have to kind of like, people try to do different things. And I can understand that at this level. Again, I call it Obratsity for a reason. I'm a brat. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't have a physical reason not to go. I just don't want to. I'm being lazy. I was talking to Eric on the phone. I'm sitting outside the gym for 30 minutes. And he's like, you better go. You need to go to the gym. You need to go, and like all this stuff. And I'm just like, I don't want to, and I felt like really whiny. And I was like, I don't want to go. Like, I really don't want to. And it was literally like, I'm not embarrassed to go. I'm not scared to go. I'm not too sick or tired to go. There was no excuse. I just didn't want to. I was being a brat. And it's like, yeah, sometimes at this level, you have to kind of kick yourself in the ass a little bit to go. And you're not that delicate anymore. And that can be hard to understand as a super morbidly obese person because everything is delicate at that stage. And even on a mental level, in my experience, mentally in morbid obesity, it was a little bit delicate still. But it was so much more delicate when I was super morbid. It's very hard. So I do think that messaging has to be catered to different categories differently because it's really different. I think what I would tell somebody who's morbidly obese, for example, like in the in-between, I would say, you got to live your life. You have to get out more. You have to do more things because, like for me, I had to get on a plane so that I know I can get on a plane. I have a trip planned. I have a couple trips planned towards the spring. I don't have to fear getting on the plane because I did it when I was morbid. I have zero anxiety about it. Have that anxiety then. Deal with it then. Because you're not getting tons and tons and tons of attention from so many people. I think you got to use everything that comes to you during the journey. You have to take everything and use it. And when you're a little bit more low key or a little bit less noticed as a morbidly obese person or in the lower levels of super morbid, you got to use that to do some awkward stuff. Because when you become more visible, there's more pressure. And that's a normal pressure. I think people in general have pressure to act appropriately, and that's okay. And I felt that when I got into small fat. I felt a pressure to be more appropriate, which is okay, but it's just, also I'm a brat and I don't want to all the time, you know? So it's like, I have weird feelings about it. So I really like the brat era for this time. I think it's perfect. But it's like, you just become more of a normal person. You just do. I know that what I'm saying, Aubrey would just hate it to hear it so much. I know that this would bother her so much to hear me say these things. Because this is so, like, anti-toxic ritualistic. This is so, like, to somebody who is in the deepest throes of this, the things that I'm saying right now, it would be like nails on a chalkboard, or like absolutely disgusting, or cause like a visceral reaction. But it should be triggered. It's not a good thing. And see, I'm even talking about it really calm. But it's like, you gotta let it go, because you just live your life. That's recovery. That's what I'm doing.
That this might be a case of being born on third and thinking you hit a triple, right? It just feels like Oprah is a really interesting, and
she's so in it, you guys. So deep.
Distilled example of like all of
she
that.
Did the genetic argument. Trash. It's a trash argument.
That.
Right, exactly.
Guess my genetics have changed. Trash.
The kind of confluence of like the personal and social impulse to like distance yourself from fat people, and then the professional impulse to like, how much can I profit off of this machine? It's just kind of a nasty concoction.
Totally. And again,
are you guys not profiting off of it? Is Aubrey not profiting off of whatever she's trying to do? It's a stupid thing to say as somebody in this industry. It's just dumb. But I think I have no need, like, I don't have any fear of gaining weight. I just don't. I don't have any fear of fat people or whatever. It's like, it's a toxic ritualistic thing if you're like truly having an issue. If you're just like, oh my gosh, like I can't, like, oh gosh, I can't believe I used to be this, and you're like, if you're really like agonizing over it, I don't think you've fully recovered, because you need to just understand it's not your identity. It wasn't your identity then. It's not your past identity. There's nothing to get rid of. It doesn't matter. And if somebody else trips about it, then they're stupid as hell. I don't know what to say. They're dumb. And you shouldn't be catering to dumb people. I don't. You know, and I'm not saying, I don't think everybody has to lose weight publicly or do it activistically or do the things that I've done. But you do not have to hide the fact that you lost weight. And if people treat you weird because of it, that speaks to their own problem with toxic ritualistic. That's their issue. Because a normal person isn't going to care that you lost weight. And you shouldn't care either, because you're getting over this. It doesn't matter. There is no ideal version of you. There's just you. In all the phases you've been in. You know, I put my body through hell. I did. And I live with that. And there is a level of guilt to it, but I've also forgiven myself, and I just don't judge people as much because of how honestly egregious I feel the things that I did are. I feel like it's horrible. So I don't have much judgment anymore. Because I don't think I have a right to judge a lot of people morally. I've said that before. So I don't judge it nearly as much as I used to, because it's like I had that humbling moment of like, look at what you were doing. Look at how long you did it. Look at how it almost killed you. Look at how insane you were about it. Sit down, be humble, have a humble moment. And I did, and I'm going to sit in that probably forever. So, yeah. But as far as this movement and as far as what I'm doing here and as far as what we're talking about, honey, as crazy as I was in that, I don't want anybody to do what I did. I don't want Aubrey to do that. I don't want anybody to. You know, I hope that one day she does break out of this. I don't know if she will. I don't feel like she will, if I'm honest. But if she did, I would be so happy for her. Truly. Truly. Genuinely happy. Because it's a horrible thing. It's truly awful. Truly. But anyways, you guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for now. I will talk to you guys again later. I'm not sure if I'm going to post tomorrow or not. It might be late if I do. But like I said, I don't expect a lot of people to watch tomorrow. So just keep an eye out, I guess. I'll probably do it either tomorrow or Friday. But yeah, I will see you guys later. And I will talk to you soon. Bye. Have a good one. Peace.